over the course of Doctor Who, we've had a few spin-offs, and they've usually etched out their own kind of place. Torchwood was a little more adult. Sarah Jane was more kid-friendly. What are we going for with Class?
It's the current world of YA, particularly YA literature, is so rich and so wide and contains multitudes. So if you haven't read any contemporary YA, you might be in for a bit of a surprise at the kind of things that we deal with. And it's a really rich, it's always a really versatile place for science fiction, because the world is changing and the world is suddenly threatening, and you suddenly have all of these responsibilities that you have to face. It's a lot like being a teenager. And so to see particularly the Doctor Who universe, which is so, again, rich and well established, and to engage with that through the eyes of a teenager who is facing all these things in their personal lives, at one step away from that allegorical sci-fi question, it felt really, really right and really, really rich, and there's so much to engage with. It's a fun corner of the Doctor Who universe.
Now, the thing about doing a Doctor Who spin-off is the Doctor's out there somewhere, right? So what kind of problems does that present for you just as a storyteller? You don't want the Doctor to be a crutch, right?
Of course not. No. It was said from the very beginning the show has to stand on its own. He's in episode 1, but that's only so we can see how this corner looks through his eyes, and then he leaves, and we've got to deal with the aftermath of it. Because as he says, he can't be everywhere. He can try. It comes for the big stuff, but there's lots more than that's happening. And so to the sort of one-on-one aliens that come through that you've got to deal with day to day, I don't know, it's interesting to see how you do that without superpowers, how you do that without having particularly the knowledge of the universe at your fingertips. What if you just can't explain? The alien doesn't have a name. You have no idea what it wants. It's just there and you've got to deal with it, and that to me is really interesting.
So what kind of characters were you looking to represent with this show?
I just wanted the most sort of the most interesting ones that kind of knew from my own life and of the teenagers. I meet teenagers all the time because I write for them, and I thought, you are an interesting voice that I rarely see, and you are an interesting voice that I rarely see. So it was basically just, I don't know, wanting it to look like the world for one thing, wanting it to look like London, because if you don't do that, you're not telling the truth. But mainly, in a totally other way, they're all bits of me, really. They're all parts of me and things that that I worried about and wanted when I was younger. So it's that combination. I think you have to do it.
Now, I expect we're going to get sort of monster of the week type stories, but then there's also, I think, an overarching arc through the season involving something called the Shadow. And I know you can't talk too much about it, but can you just hint a little bit about what that's going to be?
There are. I wouldn't even say monster of the week. I've tried to take some different takes on that idea. So there's some interesting stuff coming, I hope. There is an overarching storyline, but the episodes all stand alone as well. I like that kind of storytelling. I mean, the canvas that you can tell over the course of a season while telling individual stories, it's a great combo. So I wouldn't say monster of the week. You might be surprised at some of the stuff that's coming.
Okay.
So, yeah.
How did you get the job? You're a young adult author. I don't think you had any history writing for Doctor Who or anything, did you?
I've written for film. They came to me and asked if I would write for Doctor Who, and I said, fantastic opportunity. But they caught me at a time where I had just finished a bunch of work for other people. I had just done a bunch of adaptations, and I said, can you come back to me, because right now I would just love to do something that's purely mine. And they said, well, we have this other idea that we've been thinking about. We're thinking of setting it in a school. And I sort of sat up straight. I thought, oh, I know exactly what I would do with that. The idea started skyrocketing. And I just went boom, 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 boom. This is what I would do. And they went for it. So here we are.
Did you feel the need to go back and watch the Doctor Who at all, or did you want a blankslate?
Well, I've seen all of the Doctor Who since the reboot. I'm American, so I moved to England, so I've seen everything since 2005. And I had done other research when I wrote a Doctor Who short story. I did it on the Fifth Doctor, so I watched a lot of Fifth Doctor stuff. So I've seen a ton of it. And so not a blank slate. And it's always about an engagement of. It's a big universe. There's room for all kinds of corners of it. So this is just the corner that I'm looking at. I call it an engagement. And with engagement, interesting things can come up.
Obviously, you want to make your mark with Class as its own thing from the get-go, but part of what we love about these shared sort of universes these days is that they're shared universes, and there are all these characters out there. There's Captain Jack, and there's Rose, and there's Clara. All these Doctor Who characters. is it possible that we will eventually see cameos and guest appearances like that somewhere down the line?
If it works. I mean, that's the thing. I always think cameo appearances take you out of a story, so it has to have a really, really good reason. And I really believe we need to stand on our own first. And think of it this way: if you were given a chance to enter the Doctor Who universe and make up new monsters and new characters, wouldn't you go for it? Wouldn't you just go for it? So that's it has to stand on its own first.
Last question then would be, have there been any times when you've just hit a wall in the writing and you're like, whoa, I thought I could do this, but it's not working, or anything like that?
Oh, that always happens in any project, but the ideas were so clicking for this that it not so much. It was, how do you make them work in 44 minutes? How do you get all the emotion that you want in 44 minutes? And how do you earn every bit of hard material? How do you earn it? Because it can't be cheap, it can't be contrived. So it was more about earning it all, and that's a pleasurable challenge, actually.
Well, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Good luck today.